Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Mona Kosar-Abdi. Here are the top 5 things to know this Monday. Number 1, the potential conflict with Iran.
Tensions and oil prices are rising after a drone attack targeting the heart of Saudi Arabia's oil industry. President Trump has hinted of possible military action against Iran, tweeting the U.S. is, quote, locked and loaded. And the government released satellite images in an effort to back up the claim that Iran was responsible.
Number 2, some Democrats are now calling for the impeachment of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh after a previously unreported allegation of sexual misconduct during his college days.
The New York Times says the new claim that Kavanaugh exposed himself was brought to the FBI's attention during this confirmation hearing, but was never investigated. On to number 3, top Democrats in Washington have laid out their demands to President Trump as he prepares to announce new gun control proposals as early as this week.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer have told the president any bill must include expanded background checks. They then promised to join him at the signing ceremony if he agrees to their terms. And we head to Detroit for number 4. The United Auto Workers Union has gone on strike against General Motors.
Nearly 50,000 employees at 55 facilities are walking off the job. The union says the two sides remain far apart on several issues in contract talks. And finally, number 5, we remember Rick Ocasek, lead singer from The Cars.
I guess you're just what I need. That's what I needed. I needed someone to feed.
Sources say Ocasek apparently died of natural causes in his New York apartment. He was 75.
Rolling Stone once described him as someone who seemed mysterious and aloof, but that's not what his neighbors saw.
He was the nicest man. He was so gentle. I feel sad because I really like the band. I really like that genre of music.
The Cars had one hit after another in the late 1970s and early 80s. Ocasek wrote most of their songs. The band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year. And we've got much more coming your way to talk about.
Yeah, Janae's not here. Mona's here. It's Morning America. Let's get to it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's still great to have Mona Kosar-Abdi here and for Janae Norman. But we got to get right to that big story, the rising tensions between the U.S. and Iran. One analyst says the situation in the Persian Gulf is now the most dangerous in 20 years.
And it comes as the White House blames Iran for a massive drone strike this weekend on 2 oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. President Trump responding, saying the U.S. is, quote, locked and loaded.
Meanwhile, oil prices are surging and the president is taking action to protect consumers. ABC's Trevor Alt begins our coverage. Trevor, good morning. So I have to ask you, what do we know about this attack and the potential response?
Well, Kenneth, good morning. Mona, good morning as well. So essentially what happened is over the weekend there was this massive strike on this Saudi Arabian oil facility. It's the largest oil processing plant in the world, and the United States believes Iran is responsible. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said Iran needs to be held accountable. He called this an unprecedented attack on the world's energy supply. And you mentioned that tweet from President Trump very strongly hinting that possible military retaliation could be coming. He said that they're waiting to hear from Saudi Arabia, but the United States is locked and loaded. And we know from an official who told us over the weekend there were many urgent meetings at different levels of the White House and the Pentagon, the State Department, where they're trying to figure out the best course of action, whether or not to escalate militarily or try to bring Iran to the bargaining table. That was something that they were considering before this attack. But this is something that they are pretty committed to believing that Iran did. An official says that there were 20 drones and almost a dozen cruise missiles that were fired from Iran here. And this is no doubt one of the trickiest and most serious foreign policy situations that President Trump has had to deal with.
Well, Trevor, our sources, senior U.S. officials say that Iran is to blame, but Iran's pointing the finger at Houthi rebels.
Yeah, that's right. So Houthi rebels is they're a group in Yemen, and they themselves are taking responsibility for this attack. They're saying that they did it, and they're backed by Iran, but Iran is saying they didn't do this. They're saying that the United States is involved in what they're calling max deceit, but U.S. officials aren't buying it. They're saying pretty clearly from their intelligence that this attack began in Iran. Those drones, those cruise missiles were fired from the country here. So even though the Houthi rebels in Yemen are saying they were the ones who carried this out, the United States is not believing them.
Trevor, before you go, we know there's a whole host of reasons Americans should care about what's happening over there in the Middle East as we talk about these escalating tensions. But there is, when it comes to the price at the pump, the pain at the pump, and what Americans could really see from this. How will oil prices be impacted here?
Right. Yeah, you make a great point, Kenneth, because this is something that everyday people could see an immediate impact. We know when oil prices and the oil market reopened this morning, they immediately spiked up 20%. Now, they've since settled back down a little bit. Right now, they're up about 10%. But this is a reaction to about 5% of the world's oil supply being taken out by this processing plant. As I mentioned, it's the world's largest. Half of Saudi Arabia's oil processing is now out of commission after this attack. So this is something that's going to have some long-standing effects. But President Trump is trying to combat this a little bit. He said that he's authorized the release of oil from the United States Petroleum Reserve supply. So that is something that could help if the supply needs it. But obviously, everybody's paying attention to the cost of gas, the cost of oil. And this is something that, as the tensions rise in the Gulf, we're going to have to be watching very closely.
And we are watching. All right, Trevor Ault breaking it down in Washington for us. Trevor, thank you. And we turn now to the new report of alleged sexual misconduct by Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh when he was in college. President Trump is coming to his defense, lashing out at the media and even suggesting Kavanaugh sue for libel. The New York Times published a previously unreported account from a former Yale classmate of Justice Brett Kavanaugh, Max Stier. The Times reporting Stier reached out to senators and the FBI to report he saw Kavanaugh expose himself at a party his freshman year in 1983 and saw Kavanaugh's friends pushing him into a female student's hand. This latest allegation reportedly never pursued by the FBI. Kavanaugh supporters are coming to his defense, saying the Times essay, adapted from an upcoming book about the justice, does not tell the full story.
This article just shows the obsession with the far left, with trying to smear Justice Kavanaugh by going 30 years back with anonymous sources.
The book says the female student did not wish to speak publicly, and her friends say she doesn't remember the incident. President Trump is defending Kavanaugh, tweeting, "He is an innocent man who has been treated horribly. Such lies about him." Following President Trump's nomination of Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, another former Yale classmate, Deborah Ramirez, alleged Kavanaugh exposed himself at a different party when they were both drunk. She says she shoved him away in the process, accidentally touching him. And Dr. Christine Blasey Ford also came forward publicly with allegations Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her when they were teenagers. The FBI launched an investigation but found no corroboration of the allegations. Kavanaugh denying all claims of sexual assault.
I strongly opposed him based on his views on executive power, which will continue to haunt our country, as well as how he behaved, including the allegations that we are hearing more about.
Several 2020 Democratic hopefuls are now calling for impeachment. Elizabeth Warren tweeting, like the man who appointed him, Kavanaugh should be impeached. But the Senate Majority Leader standing behind the justice, tweeting, "I look forward to many years of service to come from Justice Kavanaugh." Kavanaugh so far declining to comment on the Times story, the new book, or the fresh allegation. Former Vice President Joe Biden released a statement Sunday night. He did not call for Kavanaugh's impeachment, but said, quote, "We must follow the evidence to wherever it leads."
An investigation is underway into a frightening deck collapse in Wildwood, New Jersey.
Nearly 24 people, including 3 children, were injured when this condo building's second and third floor decks suffered a complete pancake collapse. These before and after images show the scope of the damage.
Now, there's no word this morning on what exactly caused the deck to collapse or how many people were on that deck when it failed.
Add New York to the places taking action against vaping.
That's right. Governor Andrew Cuomo is calling for an emergency ban on all e-cigarette flavors except tobacco and menthol. Michigan already has such a ban.
New York has had more than 60 cases of lung disease linked to vaping, and sweet and fruity flavors are more popular with teens. Cuomo says his state should act as fast as possible.
It is addicting young people to nicotine at a very early age. And nicotine is highly addictive. We do not know the long-term health effects of the use of this product.
The American Lung Association says Cuomo missed an opportunity by not including menthol. The leading maker of e-cigs, Juul, says it agrees with the need for action on flavored products.
Whole Foods says it is cutting health coverage for some of its workers starting next year. The grocery chain is owned by Amazon. Its new policy says employees will have to work at least 30 hours a week to qualify for health care benefits. That's up from 20 hours a week under the current plan. The change is expected to affect nearly 2,000 workers.
New overnight, Umberto is now a Category 1 hurricane. Umberto may drop an inch or two of rain on the northwest Bahamas and create rough surf along the southeastern U.S. coast. As a tropical storm, it stayed clear of the Bahamas and is now moving away from the U.S. mainland, too.
Umberto Shack is allowing cleanup work to continue in the Bahamas. About 1,300 people are still missing, and at least 15,000 need shelter, food, and medical care. During a visit, the UN Secretary General said he's horrified by the level of devastation. He called Dorian a, quote, category hell hurricane and said storms like that are the result of climate change that is running faster than efforts to stop it.
And residents of Southern California's Inland Empire who evacuated because of a wildfire are being let back into their homes. The Horseshoe Fire, about 65 miles northeast of Los Angeles, destroyed almost 500 acres, but firefighters used the winds to actually get a handle on it. No buildings were lost and no injuries reported. The blaze is now 30% contained.
And breaking overnight, the maker of OxyContin has taken the first step toward a partial settlement of claims related to the opioid crisis. Purdue Pharma has filed for bankruptcy as promised in the agreement with more than 20 states. Their lawsuits claim OxyContin helped fuel the opioid addiction epidemic. Lawsuits from other states are still pending.
New this morning, the Confederate statue known as Silent Sam, which was torn down just over a year ago, may have been found at the University of North Carolina.
A student journalist says the statue is wrapped in a tarp at a school storage facility, along with its pedestal. Police arrived at the site after it was first reported. UNC isn't commenting on the statue's location, while discussions are underway about where it should be relocated.
And the pregame action was literally on fire before the Colts and Titans took the field yesterday in Tennessee. A piece of equipment used in the pregame introductions burst into flames a few minutes before kickoff. The Titans had a pyrotechnic device malfunction. Fortunately, no one was hurt.
And still to come, a bride-to-be's dream becomes a reality, but nope, it was not a fairy tale. How she says her dream caused her to swallow her engagement ring.
But first, hear from the Hollywood stuntwoman suing producers after losing her arm in an accident on set. After this. Welcome back. We turn now to the Hollywood stunt double suing the producers of a film she worked on after a horrifying accident on set.
That's right. The stunt woman lost her left arm in the accident. Now, in an exclusive ABC News interview, she is speaking out, saying the movie's producers abandoned her after promising to pay her medical bills.
This morning, the movie set injury leading to real-life legal drama in Hollywood.
I was really hurt and really scared.
Olivia Jackson was doubling for Milla Jovovich's character in Resident Evil, The Final Chapter, when she says she suffered a horrific injury. Now she's suing the movie's producers.
I never thought that something like that would happen to me.
According to the lawsuit, Jackson was scheduled to shoot a fight scene in September of 2015. But at the last minute, producers switched to a dangerous and technically complex motorcycle scene, which involved her speeding toward a camera. She says the camera was supposed to move before she reached it, but it did not lift in time, and Jackson collided with the camera at full speed.
Went straight into my left arm, my head, and my left shoulder. And the next thing I remember, I woke up 3 weeks later after being in a coma, and then saw my family. Sorry.
Jackson was placed in a medically induced coma, and her left arm was amputated.
The canal was punctured with this bone here, the zygoma bone that was broken. The most severe injury at the time was my brachial artery was severed. I had loads of broken ribs, broken humerus. Both my forearm bones on the left hand were broken, and actually a big piece of bone missing that they never found.
Jackson claims the movie's producers misled her, allegedly saying their insurance would cover any on-set injuries. But according to the lawsuit, the insurance covered only $33,000 of her medical expenses, a fraction of what Jackson says the injury has cost. Her lawyers say Jackson faces up to $1 million of added medical costs.
I have constant surgeries, which I'm going to have for the rest of my life. So, yeah, it was obviously very hurtful when they stopped paying for everything.
The producers have not commented on the lawsuit. Civil lawsuits in California do not list the dollar amount being sought. The movie, though, grossed $300 million worldwide.
And we know that it's time to go across the pond now to ABC's London Bureau, where we find Julia McFarland, who's keeping an eye on the biggest international news. Good morning, Julia. So let's start in Hong Kong, where more violent clashes have erupted amid protests there.
Hey, Kenneth, exactly. So Sunday was marking the 15th week of consecutive protests in Hong Kong. And once again, we saw scenes turning violent with protesters clashing with police. Protesters this weekend, it has to be pointed out, they were in defiance of a police ban. There were no authorized protests in the city today, and yet thousands of people turned up once again. They have changed their call slightly. They're now calling for the liberation of Hong Kong. They've moved past that contentious extradition bill, which has now been withdrawn from by Hong Kong's government. They were out singing patriotic songs, national anthems, and also appealing to the US and the UK to help in their cause. Meanwhile, it's hard to see, I have to say, it's hard to see whether there was more violence this weekend or whether it was just more visible. But certainly we saw protesters throwing bricks, trying to find bricks amongst concrete, throwing them at police, and police responding with water cannons laced with blue dye as well as tear gas.
Wow.
Chaotic scene there. All right, let's go to the latest on Brexit. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has now compared himself to the Hulk. What's going on there?
Indeed, but this was in an interview to the Mail on Sunday where Boris Johnson trying to illustrate how determined he is to take Britain out of the EU on that Halloween Brexit deadline. He said that the madder Hulk gets, the stronger Hulk gets, referring, of course, to that much-loved Marvel character. Mark Ruffalo, who plays the Hulk in the movies, he has said that the Hulk is nothing like Boris Johnson and the Hulk fights for good, so that's his own political opinion. And a lot of people noting that probably the big green monster is not the best analogy for the British Prime Minister, noting that while the Hulk doesn't have to abide by law, Boris Johnson has to, and garnering himself some rather unfortunate caricatures in the Monday papers today. One cartoonist describing him as the Incredible Sulk.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's a
he walked right into that one.
Hulk smash Brexit. Okay. Hey, before you go, Julia, we have a royal birthday.
Yay.
And Roy, I don't know if you can tell, but I actually kind of said royal with a little bit of your accent.
Yeah, we do. Prince Harry was 35 years old yesterday, celebrating at home. And of course, in typical Sussex elan and flair, it was marked by an Instagram post on Harry and Meghan's joint Instagram account. It featured sort of a grid of pictures of Harry throughout his years, some really sweet pictures of him with his late mother, Diana, Princess of Wales, in a military salute with his grandfather, Prince Philip, with his brother, Prince William. Him and Meghan on their wedding day, and also a new photo that we've not seen yet before by royal photographer Chris Allerton on what appears to be little Archie's christening day. That day was completely closed to the public and to the media, so this is our first little look at how that special ceremony went down. So it was his first birthday as a father. Meghan, of course, she had her birthday in August, both parents becoming parents with the birth of little Archie in May, just in time for Mother's Day and Father's Day. Those 2 days, of course, marked with some really special, sweet Mother's Day and Father's Day posts and photos of the new royal baby with the parents.
I love that. Yeah. I really do. A picture we haven't seen before is like a gift for us as well. Hey,
I'm
also
very invested in this family.
And also very invested.
Celebrating his birthday.
You know what I'm also invested in? Seeing combos that I don't get to typically see. Julia talking to Mona, Mona talking to Julia. They never get to be on air together, and here we are.
One day we'll all be in the same studio.
I know.
One day we will. And I'll bring snacks.
I need to book my plane ticket.
You can bring snacks, and then we can leave the studio and go to a pub. How about that?
That's a great idea, guys. Hi, let's get that on.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Care.
All right, so let's check our notifications now, starting with a hotel at the North Pole.
Okay.
So now if you want to make the icy trek, you can stay in an igloo for more than $100,000 a night.
Hey, if you're going all the way to the North Pole, you better go in style. A hairdryer has helped a Montana grandmother go viral.
Her name, Patty Baumgartner. She says she's tired of cars speeding through her neighborhood. So you know what she did? She and her son decided to sit in a chair and hold a hairdryer, pretending, in her words, that it's a speed thing. She says her son took a picture and sent it to the Montana State Troopers, who made Baumgartner an honorary member of the force. She now has a trooper hat and a badge, and hopefully some people are slowing down in her neighborhood now.
I love that picture of her with her hair dryer in her left hand and an unidentifiable red cup.
With an unidentifiable liquid inside.
Well, now a real-life Disney princess got married, so naturally this deer showed up to photobomb the wedding photos.
And really munched on the bouquet there.
Now,
pretty cute.
Yeah, you see, it's so cute. Aw, look at that, just photobombing. All right, so now to some Beyonce news this Monday morning. Queen Bee shocking fans with a big announcement on Sunday.
The superstar revealing that our own network, ABC, will air a TV special called Making the Gift, documenting the creation of her latest Lion King-inspired album, The Gift. The trailer for the special promises an intimate look behind the scenes, from filming the music videos to collaborating with artists like Pharrell, Kendrick Lamar, and Jay-Z.
I saw her Coachella one, and I absolutely love that you get like a sneak peek into how intense her work ethic is. So the special will air at 10 p.m. tonight right here on ABC.
We'll all be watching. So we've done countless stories at this point about people doing more than just talking in their sleep, from sleepwalking to sleep eating.
But what one San Diego woman says she ate in her sleep just might be one for the books. Our own Will Gans explains.
You ever dream about something and wake up and can't shake the feeling? Happens to a lot of us. But for one San Diego resident, a recent dream became a nightmare when the alarm went off in the morning.
When I woke up and it was not on my hand, I knew exactly where it was.
Where was it?
It was in my stomach.
Yep, Jenna Evans had swallowed her engagement ring.
We've been together for 5.5 years.
Jenna had waited a decent length of time to get the ring of her dreams from the man of her dreams.
I designed it and I picked all the stones and everything.
But last week, this 3-stone band of love ended up somewhere a little less shiny.
I was having a dream that we were on a cargo train and it was a dangerous situation, and Bobby told me, you know, you have to swallow your ring.
So she did, in the dream and in real life. The couple realizing in the morning that Dream Jenna and Real Life Jenna were a little more in sync than might be healthy, rushing into urgent care and explaining the bizarre situation.
And I wish I could have seen their faces.
The x-ray confirmed her story.
It's very clear. There's no looking for it. It's just right there.
Her gastroenterologist suggested an emergency endoscopy.
I was really happy because I don't know if I'd ever be able to look at it and appreciate it in the same way if I had had to search for it.
Instead of waiting for nature to take its course, Jenna went under. And after a few minutes, she was reunited with her engagement ring.
I feel very grateful that I got it back and that it does end as a happy, funny story.
Something old, something new, something borrowed, something inside of you? Before her wedding, Jenna says she isn't taking any more chances.
I have been taking it off at night.
Just in case.
Just in case.
The couple will get married in Jenna's home state of Texas this coming May, hopefully with the rings on their fingers.
Yes. There's so many other great things you can eat in Texas. Barbecue.
Not your wedding ring.
Not your wedding ring. Yeah.
Tex-Mex.
So many things.
Still not your wedding ring.
Still not your wedding ring. Hey, coming up, we've got a look ahead at news-making events coming up today.
And the bizarre competition that had participants rolling in their graves after this.
Here's what to watch out for today. President Trump is scheduled to participate in a credentialing ceremony for new ambassadors and hold a working visit with the Crown Prince of Bahrain before holding a campaign rally in New Mexico. Plus, enter Sandman. Former New York Yankees closing pitcher Mariano Rivera will be presented with the Presidential Medal of Freedom at the White House. Rivera won 5 World Series titles as a Yankee and is the first and only player to be unanimously inducted into the Hall of Fame.
More than 49,000 union workers for General Motors are on strike after negotiations for a new labor contract hit a stalemate. United Auto Workers formed picket lines. Overnight, talks are scheduled to begin again this morning.
And the woman accusing New England Patriots wide receiver Antonio Brown of sexual assault is meeting with NFL investigators today. A source tells ABC News that Antonio Brown declined to sign a $2 million agreement last Sunday to settle the allegations, after which the suit was filed.
Plus, don't forget to tune in to The Debrief for an update on all of our top stories and The Briefing Room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics. Finally, Six Flags Magic Mountain in California had more of a Death Valley feel this weekend.
We told you about this last week, and now you get to see the 6 contestants who took part in the amusement park's coffin challenge. The goal was to spend 30 hours in a coffin above ground from Friday afternoon until Saturday night. It was to kick off Fright Fest celebrations. The most frightening part of this whole thing? Yep, cue Baby Shark, because that played it on a loop the entire time. So that's our question of the day. Would you do this challenge? What's worse, being in a coffin or listening to Baby Shark?
After hearing that song multiple times this morning, I will pick listening to Baby Shark nonstop.
No. Tell us what you think in the comments section or tweet us at ABC News Live. And it continues. You like the Grandma Shark part, right?
No, I don't like any of it. But hey, it's cool.
All right, well, thank you for joining us. Let us know what you think about that. That's our question of the day. We will see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us.